welcome back to Women, where we question all the rules so that you can come into yourself and make your own guidelines. Yes, very cool stuff. I have a friend with me today from Wales. Her name is Berni Sewell, and she is epic. Hey, she's a health scientist. That's what she does for her daughter and her family, her husband. But what she really at her heart of hearts, is a major healer. That is what she's really all about. And she has an amazing story to tell about what is at the center of what she does. And it has to do with self-worth. Amazing story. I will let her tell you. Berni, when we met, it's a little bit over a year ago now.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, right. It's like, well, it's 13 months maybe or something. And I was putting on a seminar and I went looking for people, and I found amazing people all over the globe. So here I am in, little Cincinnati, Ohio in the US, and there's Berni in Wales. And you will hear from her accent that she wasn't born in Wales. So we are very multicultural here.
No, I was born in Austria, so.
Right. Okay. So Berni, we were talking before we got on and started doing this interview. We were talking about what really drives you, what really makes your motor run. And I remember once upon a time you told the story about right after your daughter was born. And I would love if you would tell it again.
Okay. Well, I always went a certain path in life. It was kind of laid out in front of me. I would get a qualification. I would get a PhD. I would be somebody. I would be important. I would have worth. And I went on that path very successfully. And I always felt not good enough. I always felt inferior to everybody else. I suffered from severe anxiety to a point where I lived in Vienna at the time. And there was a supermarket right opposite my house. And I could not get myself to go there without a massive anxiety attack, spending an hour on the toilet. Sorry to everybody who is British, too much information. But I at some point I just couldn't leave my flat.
Now, was there an event? Was there an event that caused that to happen? Or it was just natural?
It just gradually went worse. It started when I was 15. I had a narcissistic teacher. And the narcissistic teacher loved to torment pupils, and I wouldn't dare to put my hand up and say, could I go to the toilet? Because he would just make fun of me. And right. as a teenager, you are self-conscious at best of times, and you don't want to laugh, be the laughing stock. So I tried not to go to the toilet. And that's when I developed toilet anxiety, which is very unpleasant. And it just went from there. So it started with that, and it turned into social anxiety, and then that turned into generalized anxiety, and it just got worse and worse and worse. And then at some point I thought, okay, this is no way I can live. That's not a life anyway. And I always wanted to, I always felt I went this path towards, being good enough. And doing what I'm expected to be doing. And it never made me happy. It just, I had something tucked at my heart that said, I want to do something else. Yet I would have never dared to start my own business, because I thought, first of all, who would want to have anything to do with me? And I would fail anyway. And if I fail, then I know for sure that, I'm just a loser and I'm for nothing. And so it never worked out like that. So I went into the academic career, which has its perks, of course, and it has its, and I like certain parts of it, but it's not my passion. And I thought, okay, that's just what life is. And then my daughter was born, and she was 3 weeks old, and I wasn't a natural mom. When she didn't pop out, it was woo. Well, when they dragged her out and put her on my chest, I looked at her and I thought, what am I going to do with this thing now? So I'm
Right.
really not the natural mom. And it had to develop over time with lots of, what's wrong with me? I'm a horrible mother. I'm a loser. I'm a failure, you know. But then as she was 3 weeks old, she was sleeping and I was holding her and I looked at her and I thought, she is worth. She just is infinitely worthy. Yet, you look at the baby and you know it. And you see it. I think nobody has ever said, just look at this thing, it has no worth at all. Nobody says that about a baby.
No.
But we say it about ourselves all the time. So I thought, what happens in between? Because my daughter, 3 weeks old, had no achievements, had no success. Was not particularly pretty, but don't tell her that. She's
okay. I won't tell her.
As a baby, but she's
Pretty now, yeah.
Oh yeah. And she had nothing to her name, no wealth, no accomplishment. And yet she was infinitely worthy. She was worth. And I kind of felt that worth was the essence of what she was. So it was part of her. And I thought, where did my worth go? Because
Right.
I must have been worth like she was when I was a baby. Where did it go? And I thought about it for quite a while and I thought, it can't have gone anywhere. You know, if it's part of me, it can't have gone anywhere. And that's where I discovered that our entire society suffers from worth amnesia. So we are born and we know our worth. You know, a tiny baby is even proud of its poo because it made it.
That's so funny and true.
Yeah.
True. Yeah.
And we, no matter what we do, we are never good enough. So I thought, as a scientist, I need to know where this is coming from. And I discovered that our society has lost all of our true worth. So the baby has no chance. It's just immersed in that soup of we are all inherently worthless. We all have this urge, this need to be worth because we feel it should be there. Mm-hmm. And we feel this constant emptiness, this hole, because it's not there, because society has become blind to it. And it's kind of beaten out of us, or, you know, I tend to, you know, if you are born in Spain, for example, and you speak Spanish for the first 2 years of your life, and it's completely normal, and then you move to the States, after a year, you can't even remember a word of Spanish. So as babies, we're born knowing the word language, but because nobody else speaks it, we forget it. And everybody forgets it. And the way society then says to us, look, you have no worth. Sorry, that's the way it is. But you can earn yourself some worth. And very helpfully, we are getting very specific criteria that we need to fulfill to earn ourselves worth. And we're all desperate for worth. And that's not our fault. It's just our natural instinct to fill that hole, that, you know, that memory loss left behind. And those criteria that we need to fulfill are completely based on externalities. They are completely man-made, arbitrary, random nonsense. But we all go for them because that's our only chance. You know, for those criteria is our only chance to ever have worth. And we believe that we have to have worth, or else we're not deserving of happiness, of love, of abundance, of what we want. So there we are, completely worthless. We need to fulfill those criteria, or otherwise we can never have our dreams. And the criteria are beauty, success, wealth, achievements, status within society, how well we are in control of our life, how healthy we are. And there are, you know, there are benchmarks. You know, if you reach those, you have worth in that criterion. Mm-hmm. And they are so high. They are so high that nobody can ever attain them, which is why we never feel good enough, because we're trying to attain benchmarks, unrealistic benchmarks in random nonsensical worth criteria. And we were struggling I struggled my whole life to be the best. To be the best at university, to be the best at school, then to be the best at university. And I always succeeded, but it never made me feel better about myself, because there were always people who are compared to them. I was inferior, and I always felt inferior. And because the goal is perfection. The goal for us is to be perfect in all of those worth criteria. And it doesn't work. It's impossible. We're being set up for failure, and then we beat ourselves up because we're asking, what's wrong with me that I can't fulfill those criteria? When the real question is, what's wrong with those criteria? And the answer is everything.
We are so on the same path with that,
Yeah.
so completely, because what I'm bringing forward for women and for businesses is just what you said. We get born into this soup, this setting, and in order to survive, we try to fit in, because that's what any creature at the start of its existence does, is let me survive.
Yeah.
And then, what's weird, and it's too bad that the men do succeed financially, because that's even more of a blinder for them, right? Our ability as women, because we are paid less, at least we are over here in the US, for sure. We have that dubious distinction, that dubious honor of like, well, there must be something more. We're not blinded by that. We're just like, we need that worth thing that you're talking about.
Yeah. And the thing is, because I tend to say, I reckon 98% of the population suffers with low self-worth.
Yes.
And then I get people saying, yes, but if everybody suffers from low self-worth, why do I have the anxiety? And why do I feel not good enough? And so many, but I think it's a matter of definition, because I define low self-worth as the lack of awareness of our true worth. And even if somebody is a male, healthy, good-looking millionaire, they still bow to the worth criteria. That they just feel they fulfill them better than others, so they have more worth in society's eyes.
But they may not have it within themselves.
They still don't have awareness of their true worth. That doesn't need the millionaire and the healthy so whether anxiety or whether you have self-doubt, whether your business succeeds or fails, your worth remains the same, because it can't be changed. And that helped me a lot to get over that fear of failure. That, okay, I'm gonna build a course. I'm gonna build a course for helping people to overcome low self-worth in 5 steps. I have it all in my head, but what if nobody wants it? and that's what's holding us back. And that's especially bad for women. Men are more like, oh, just try it and I'll see. Or in the most ideal thing, oh, I'll succeed anyway. But women are more likely to be, oh, but what if nobody wants to buy it? What if nobody wants to hear? What if I'm not right? What if people disagree? What if people don't like what I have to say? And it's those 2 words, the what if, they kill everything. But they come from this fear of failing, because failure in society's eyes will diminish our worth. And we're scrambling all our life to earn a few worth points. And then one failure is just like, bang, okay, I start from scratch again.
Yes.
So, and that's why we're so scared of it.
Yeah.
And it's all right. It doesn't matter if I fail, I just try it. If nobody buys it, then what did I lose? So that's how my first course came to pass, by saying, I'll just give it a go. And it doesn't need to be perfect.
No, in fact, I think the important thing is to know that it can't be. And I think, honestly, we have a drive that comes from our belief over a few hundred years now that we have to be machine-like. We have to be that kind of perfection. And what happens from that is that then we can't allow ourselves to grow. We can't allow ourselves to be sort of like the fool card in the tarot deck, to be,
Yeah.
like the little kid who gets up and I know I'm not, I'm on the ground again, I'm on the
Yeah.
bed and oh, I'm on the ground. Oh, look, I'm walking. Oh, cool. If
Yeah.
the kid sat there and went, I'm not going to try that because if I fall down, I'll
Yeah.
look
Or
foolish.
tries it once, falls over and says, I'm not good enough. I'm just gonna sit here for the rest of my life. And I know so many people who try once. My sister is an amazing graphic designer, and she wrote this really, really lovely children's book, and she illustrated it herself. It's adorable. And she sent it to one publisher, and the publisher said, no, thank you. And she said, well, I'm not good enough. And because we're being told that, that's it. Your worth is gone. Sorry.
So what's the solution then? What did you do and what do you help other people do now?
So first of all, I'm helping people to see their true worth. So, and overcoming low self-worth, and that I'm not good enough, I can never do that self-doubt and anxiety as well. For me, especially social anxiety is a symptom of low self-worth, and that can be eradicated by just getting rid of low self-worth. I did do nothing to get rid of my anxiety, nothing. I didn't read any book on how to overcome anxiety, or I worked on my self-worth, and the anxiety just disappeared by itself. And there are several steps to that, and because there are several layers of low self-worth. So
Sure.
low self-worth has 5 layers, and the first layer is this unawareness, that the unawareness that we are worth, because that means we have no clue where our problems are coming from. And many of our problems come from the fact that we don't know that we are worth personified. So I offer a 7-day email course, which is free for everybody. It's called the Healthy Self-Worth Starter Kit. And people can just go through that and learn to appreciate their true inherent worth that has always been there, always will be. And it doesn't matter, it's immune to failure. It doesn't care for your achievements. It's just, you just need to allow yourself to see it and to feel it. And a lot of people resonate with it because deep down, they know that's true. We just forgot about it. And once you've got rid of this layer of unawareness, you then need to, and there are several steps to that, you need to work on kind of getting out of this societal indoctrination. Opening your eyes and seeing, well, actually, whenever I watch a perfume ad, what they're telling me is I'm not good enough, but if I buy that perfume, I can be.
Right.
Just opening your eyes and saying, how does low self-worth affect everybody's behavior? If somebody gets criticized and gets defensive or blames somebody else, they do that because they want to avoid losing worth. So they push the blame around so somebody else loses the worth. And a lot of, people who bully others have very low self-worth. They feel completely worthless. But if somebody else is worth less than they are, if they can make somebody worth less, it means they're automatically worth more.
Right.
And that's completely warped and distorted and nonsensical. Right. But that's how we kind of learned that it works. So the first step is become aware that you are worth. The second step is just look around you and see that worth indoctrination and how those criteria are nonsense. Then the third step is to forgive yourself for the past, for your mistakes, for failure, for where you think you are a bad person because people told you, where you think you're not good enough.
Right.
And then the next step is to work with your mind, because the mind just sticks with those worth criteria.
Ooh, yes.
And you need to make sure the mind is on your side, because the mind's your bodyguard. And the mind will always try to protect you, protect your survival, but also protect your worth. So you need to kind of get on the same page with your mind. And then you're facing your limiting beliefs. And the limiting beliefs, I tend to compare it to a prison. You know, low self-worth is a prison. And if you suffer from low self-worth, you know that. And that awareness that you are worth is the key to your prison cell. But then you're still stuck in that prison cell because you believe you're not good enough because society told you so. Because you believe you need punishment because society told you you're a bad person, or your mistakes, you know, to have a better life, or you deserve to be in that prison.
Right.
But once you overcome that, you leave your cell and you meet the guard. And the guard says, go right back in there, because that's where it's safe, you know.
Right. Right.
Where it's safe, you stay in there. This is your protective custody. We're not moving further. So you need to talk to the mind to come to an understanding. And then once you got the mind on your side, you move further and you face the prison wall. And the prison wall is all those limiting beliefs. I will fail anyway. Who would ever listen to me? I'm not special enough. I don't deserve to live. You know, all kinds of these really awful beliefs that hold us back all the time. Right. And you need to find a way. And I have found energy healing is the best way to just delete those limiting beliefs. And once you're out, you need to keep going, because we love a one-stop solution. You know, it's like, yes, there you are. But it's not that, because with low self-worth, even if you know that you are worth, you are immersed in that soup, as you call it, of low self-worth in society that won't change. And people say to me, how can I believe in my worth if society will never see it? So, well, it won't. You have to accept that.
They will, but people will see it, actually.
People will see you. Society as a whole never will. Because the worth criteria are just too, you know, we are just, society is built around it. Imagine everybody said tomorrow, hey, wait a second, I just woke up and I know I am worth. I'm not gonna go to that soul-sucking job again, because you know, I don't need to prove my worth. I don't need to work 80 hours because I am worth. I don't need to prove it to people through success and career. Or, you know, our economy would go down. Or if people said, you know what, I'm not going to put this makeup on today because I look good just the way I am. All the cosmetics, all the fashion industry, they're all got out of business. So our society is built on our worthlessness. And you know, it's not going to change in our lifetime. Right. So that's just something you need to accept. But as soon as you know your true worth, the people around you will see it too. And the people around you will change. Some will disappear, you know, because the people around you reflect what you think about yourself. If you think I'm worthless, I'm not good enough, you'll have people around you that will confirm that to you all the time. And once you start saying I am worth, these people may just, you know, fall back, and you meet new people who appreciate you and who like you the way you are and support you. And but it's a process, and you need to keep going with it, and you need to keep reminding yourself, I am worth. And that's how and it took a while because it was a lot of trial and error, but that's how I overcame low self-worth and anxiety and self-doubt, and you know, could finally do what I want. Now I'm saying, okay, I'm just gonna go for it, and I see.
I think it is just really such a systemic situation that we're in. And so what you say about keeping going reminds me of the fact that, you know, you're one and done. We love the one and done. What we're connected to is this word success. which we just assume we know what it means instead of defining it for ourselves. And then I think the much healthier way to move forward in life, whether you're working for somebody else or for yourself or whatever your situation is to be doing it on behalf of your personal freedom and your personal growth.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Doing it differently than that is going to leave you constantly grasping for the externals that are going to constantly not be enough. Yes?
Yes, they will never be enough, because I don't know what we believe. We stuck in that, but we seem to believe that once we have enough worth together, we have enough worth currency, so we can buy ourselves some happiness. Then the problem is that happiness is not a destination that you reach once you jumped through all the hoops and gained all the worth, and then there you are. Happiness. It's not.
Yes.
It's not how it works. Happiness is something that you deserve now, that everybody deserves now. But happiness needs practice. And once you reach that success, first of all, the goalposts move. So you're never going to reach it. But once if you set yourself a goal and you say, okay, if I reach that, if I have a 6-figure company, then I made it. I made it.
Right.
And what that means is I made enough worth to deserve what I want. And then you get there and nothing really changes. You're still not happier. You still haven't found love. You're still not, it's not what you thought it would be. So you think, okay, maybe I wasn't good enough. Maybe I need to have more worth. So you go and pursue more worth. So we believe that our worthlessness stops us from being happy, when in fact it's the obsessive pursuit of worth and that fulfilling of the worth criteria that ruins our happiness. Because we constantly beat ourselves up. I'm not good enough. I didn't make it. I wasn't perfect. Only to my course. I'm a failure in the universe. And we feel worthless. And that's what's causing the unhappiness. Because we are not worthless. We are worth. So, and once we understand that, we can work on being happy now, just in the moment, just with what we have and what we do and who we are. And I spent years, decades, hiding who I was because it just wasn't good enough. And it doesn't make you happy, because I hated the person that I pretended to be. But I thought I had to be, because otherwise I'd be unacceptable. Oh, it's so complicated.
It is so complicated. Oh, God.
And in reality, it's easy. You are worth. But obviously it takes a bit of time. The mind is not used to that. And the mind, once you start saying that, the mind will start, oh, that's something new. I don't like that. Everything that's new is unknown. Oh, don't like that. Shall we not say that again? Shall we let's watch Game of Thrones instead? Or the mind comes up with lots of reasons why that's not true. You say, I am worth. The mind says, yeah, but are you really? Or last year you failed there and you made a mistake here. You're not really worth, are you? And at that point, most people will say, oh, yeah, I guess I'm not. And it's at that point where you need to say, no, I'm in charge of my life, of my happiness, of my mind. And I'm going to just keep repeating that until the mind gets used to it. It's like a puppy. It just needs repetition for training.
Okay, so for some people, the repetition thing will work. It's the same as an affirmation, right?
It is. Affirmations are tricky though, because a lot of people try affirmations. And for example, if you're ill and they say, I am healthy, I am healthy, I am healthy. Or if you hate yourself and you say, I love myself, the mind calls bullshit, because the mind says that's not true.
Right.
I'm not even going to listen. It's not true. So,
well, isn't that the same for I am worth?
No, but that's true.
But what if I don't? Okay, so here's my question is, if I don't, for some reason, if I can't quite access that, and I'm like, I wish I could believe that. I wish I could believe that. What do I do to heal? Like, I know that you've done something called quantum
Healing. Yes.
Quantum healing.
Yeah. So I've quantum healing is a way to just delete limiting beliefs. And the belief that you're not good enough, the belief that you're worthless, the belief that you will always fail anyway, they are all limiting beliefs. And limiting beliefs are things, because they are thought energy. They started with you saying, I'm not good enough. And if you say it often enough, the mind is just like, you know what, I'm just going to automate that thought because it comes up so often. I don't want to put any more energy in it. And in order to automate that thought, the mind will store the energy. But energy is flowing. No, energy is always moving. And the only way to store it is in a bubble. And it's going to just flow.
Okay.
No production, no anything. It's just flowing senselessly in a bubble. And that energy bubble is somewhere in our energy body. So if you keep saying to yourself, I'm not good enough, what you can do, well, let's all do it together.
Okay, that sounds great.
So let's start with, I'm not good enough. We all have that.
Okay.
So what you can do is just say to yourself now, don't worry about it. Just say to yourself, I'm not good enough, and focus on that thought. Now you will find that there is a pressure now arising somewhere in your body. So I can feel it kind of here, down here. And that's the pressure of that energy bubble rising to the surface, because you called it. It's like a little puppy dog. It comes up. You say, I'm not good enough, and it says, and so if you're saying, I'm not good enough, you will feel that. So you have to be a bit mindful of that and feel the pressure and just focus on that pressure. And sometimes we can get a little bit emotional, because the thought I'm not good enough is not a nice one. So to try to avoid that, focus on the pressure. What color is it? Well, what shape is it?
Yeah. Oh, you weren't asking me. Okay, sorry, I had my eyes shut.
Yeah. What shape is it? Is it hot? Is it cold? So focus on that pressure. And now I want you to imagine that pressure to be a bubble, which it is. It's like a soap bubble, children like to blow. And now just take your finger or an imaginary little stick or whatever it is and pop it. And you'll feel a sense of relief, a sense of, usually you have to.
I just did, yeah.
Yeah. And that's that belief deleted. So what happens is you delete the energy bubble, and the energy doesn't want to stay there. The energy is completely frustrated having to do that all the time.
Right.
So as soon as you give it the tiniest incentive to leave, off it goes. And it doesn't harm anybody, because it is a negative impulse, or it's negative when it's stuck inside your energy body. Yeah. But the energy itself is not negative energy. Energy is just neutral. So when you release it, it's fine. And you sorted that belief. Now you'll probably have a few copies of that belief. I'm not good enough. You've said in a lot of different situations. So it may come up. But if you get used to just deleting that every time it comes up, and you'll start to recognize that pressure. If somebody at work said your last report was awful, and you start to feel that pressure, it's usually in the self-worth center, which is here. But anywhere, wherever it is. And instead of getting all upset because your report was not up to scratch and you lose, and focus on that pressure. pop it and go about your day, because it's a decision, really. Do I want to get entangled with that, which is just a limiting belief, or would I rather choose to be happy again? The report can be mended. What's the problem? My worth is unaffected, so I might as well delete that limiting belief and get on with it. But again, that takes practice.
Sure.
And yeah, if people need help with that, I have the free Healthy Self-Love Starter Kit, and I have a course where I walk people through all those 5 levels and how to overcome those, based on what I've learned in my 10-15 years of trial and error and trying to get out of it.
Wow. Well, I have a question for you. So the external worth criteria you talked about, wealth and beauty and things like that. Do you have a list of internal worth criteria?
No, but there are different kinds of worth criteria. So there are those wealth, success. We can, to some extent, affect. You could say, okay, I can't really because my circumstances or something, but theoretically, you can change those if you had the means or the opportunities. But there are also fixed worth criteria. So for example, age, gender, religion, skin color, and sexuality. They are kind of our fixed worth criteria. We can't change those, or not easily.
Well, wait. I'm thinking of people who are transgender. So how does that work?
Well, the way it works is that if you are a 35-year-old, healthy, handsome Christian man, you just started worthless. You just are worthless, and then you have to climb up the ladder, fulfilling those worth criteria like wealth, success, and stuff.
Okay.
If you are a woman, you already start with a worth deficit, so you have to make that up before you're worthless. If you are a woman of color, you start with a bigger worth deficit. If you are a Muslim woman of color, you start, very low down, and you need to catch that up first. And that's all society's judgments, and it's awful. And it's completely nonsense, because no matter what you are, who you love, what you look like, and I always find it absolutely amazing, and that's kind of historical, but I read this article once, which was fascinating, about where skin colors come from. And our skin color is basically a balancing act between our body trying to get enough vitamin D and not burning. So in countries, in northern countries where there isn't that much sun, the skin is lighter because they need to get the vitamin D. Whereas around the equator, the people there had darker skin color because they got enough vitamin D, because the sun is always there, but they needed protection against the sun, which the darker color, the melatonin, gives you. And I found that fascinating. And how would that ever affect a person's worth?
Right.
No. So it's all historical, it's all societal, and it's all nonsense. But we buy into it because we know nothing else. And I'm kind of on a mission to tell people there is something else. And you can stop buying into society's nonsense and step out of it and say, all right, do what you want in there. I do my own thing because I am worth.
And when we do that, when we step outside of that prison and we dare to be ourselves, it doesn't really matter what you're doing. Like, it doesn't matter if you're doing something that is of tremendous service or you're simply being yourself as you go about doing what you were already doing, because there's the energy is shifted, and you are, and people get it, and they look at you and they're inspired by you. they're lifted by that freedom that you now embody.
Yeah.
And I think that's critical, especially for us women, to show to our daughters.
Yes, and it's critical that we, whenever one steps out of that prison, of that soup, that we lift others up with us. So
Yes.
we, and the more we do that, the more people wake up to the reality, because we think that's reality. You know, we have no opportunities, we have no chance, we you know, we will never get the worth we need to fulfill our dreams. But that's not reality.
Mm-mm.
I mean, we really live in the matrix, and we need to wake up. And so the more people do it, and you know, I love your show for doing just that, and lifting women up and saying you are worth, and you can do things your way.
We're actually changing the structure of reality is what's happening. And you have to really be an understanding that that's all about energy, and it's about perspective, and it's about awareness. And it's not a small thing to step outside of the norm. And I know that many times I step outside of the norms. I show myself on this show and I go, oh, like right today, I'm like, oh, my eye makeup is losing its mind, and you know, I'm not perfect. And so, but I hear that in the back of my head, and I feel the result in my body, which is like, and I'm like, I'm not going to bow to that.
Yeah.
That's not what's important here.
Yeah.
Right.
My mind still does that after 15 years. When I say I'm gonna, you know, do this course, my mind's gonna say, you can't do it. No, you can't. But you know, I can say, you know what, go there, watch some TV or something. Just leave me to it. But it's a matter of practice. You need to practice that. But it's possible, and don't let anybody tell you it's, you know, it's not.
Well, it changes the game. The thing is, to go all the way back to the beginning of this, and you're talking about, we want the, what I call the on-off switch. You know, we want that magic answer. The magic answer, from my perspective, is our relationship to ourselves, to others, and to our human community. Yep. Once you change that relationship, then again, you're living from a place of, I'm growing in, I'm becoming this living organism rather than a human doing.
Yeah. And it's all about self-acceptance, because you know, the person who says, but if 89% of people suffer from low self-worth and I am the one with anxiety, that makes me just feel worse about myself because everybody else copes and I don't. But that's not the issue. The issue is that if you don't accept yourself, that's the issue. Because everybody suffers from low self-worth. Sure, some are better at fulfilling the worth criteria by some chance most of the time.
Right.
But you have to, and that's how I got myself out of the anxiety in the first place, by saying, I suffer from anxiety. At least for now, that's part of who I am. And I will accept that. And I will accept myself and love myself despite of that. Because I am worth. Mm-hmm. And that worked for me. So self-acceptance is a big, big step. And that doesn't matter where you are in life or what you do, who you love, what you look like. It really has no impact whatsoever on your worth as a human being.
You know, I feel like after 33, 35 something years of spiritual, you know, investigation and all of that, that I get why we want to meditate. You know, I used to think when I first started that it was like, I'm going to be able to see past my mind, and I'm going to be able to feel this bliss and all that. And now I feel like the more I settle in to just myself, just being exactly who I am in this moment and breathing and feeling, receiving what the messages that are coming from the body and the mind, just being there, I'm making space without making space, but I'm allowing, And so suddenly I get to see something. And that's the key to the jail cell.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's where the freedom comes.
Yes,
Because
and a
now
lot
you
of,
see something you can't unsee.
yeah, absolutely. And a lot of people say, but I don't know who I am. And because
Join the club.
you've played an act for so long, just give yourself time. Ask yourself, you know, those bumper stickers, what would Jesus do? I ask myself every time when I feel forced to do something I'm not comfortable with, because that's just what you have to do. I ask myself, what would Bernie do? You know, what do I do?
That's good. That's really good.
Yeah, don't ask yourself, what would Bernie do? Insert own.
What would Lori do? You know, that just saying that sentence, just right then, I felt this like expansive, like ownership energy around my chest that made me feel like sitting up straighter. I just felt pride.
And then don't beat yourself up if you don't know. You know, some people say to me, but I don't have any goals. I don't know what goals should I have. As soon as you put the word should in, you're into the societal worth criteria. Just let it come. You know, go in any direction, any step away from your low self-worth prison is a step in the right direction. Doesn't matter which way. And then the more you talk to yourself, the more you get to know yourself. It's like a new relationship. The more you will know what you want, but don't force it. Don't beat yourself up if you can't know it after a month or two. Just go with the flow, love and accept yourself, and keep affirming that you are worth. And that's you know, my philosophy of life.
Well, I'm a big appreciator of finding the core of an issue. So I'm a big fan of your perspective and your work. And I mean, that's the same work that I've been doing for my whole life, is what is the core issue here? And in walking through that, it's like, it's so much of the things that we think are our issues, our individual issues, are not.
Yeah, no.
They are training, they are brainwashing, they are emotional settings laid upon us when we were too young to do anything but imprint.
Yeah, and it's very cleverly made, because the worth criteria will tell us that any flaw will make us worth less. So we will try to hide them. So we tend to hide our anxiety. I'm so good at hiding my anxiety. People will say, when I say I suffered from anxiety for many, many years, oh, you're always so calm. Yes, because I'm very good at hiding it, because I didn't want people to know it, because my worth would have plummeted. So we all feel that everybody else copes so well, and we are the only one who's down, because everybody is hiding it so they don't lose worth. And it's insane if you think about it. Because if we all just said, look, I suffer from anxiety, and everybody around us said, me too, yes, me too, wouldn't we all just feel so much better?
That's what I saw for years going to workshops in especially my 30s and 40s. The minute the first exercise came out and somebody would say, I have clinical depression. Oh my God, so do I. Oh my God, so do I. Or whatever, just, and there's intimacy also. That's when you have real, authentic intimacy.
Yeah. And I found with my toilet anxiety, circling back, the drive from my hometown in Austria to Vienna, where I went to university, was but 3 hours. And when I had to go into a car with someone, immediately I needed a toilet. And it wasn't just in my mind, I needed to go.
Right.
So bad. I was sitting there clawing my fingers in my palm so I wouldn't have to think about it. And as soon as I started to say, guys, I suffer from toilet anxiety, we may have to stop at every service station. And people said, sure, no issue. There was one. Right. So our anxiety keeps us hostage because we try to hide it. And yes, sometimes people will criticize, and sometimes people will think that you're weak for it. but you will still be liberated, and it will get better. And it's a courageous step to do, to just go out there and say, I suffer from this.
Yes, it is.
But it certainly made my life easier. That and naming my anxiety. So I named my anxiety. And whenever I felt anxiety, I talked to Klaus as if Klaus was a different person.
Yeah.
Because anxiety isn't us. And we are so good at identifying with our emotions. I am scared. I am upset. I am angry, but it's not who we are. I feel scared. I have anger. There is some upset. And when you name your emotions, like your fear or even your mind, you kind of stop this identification. And I could then say, Klaus, it's really not that bad. You know, we're in no danger here.
Right.
And Klaus was actually quite, you know, he really was open to these things. So I was like, oh, I'm surprised now. So yeah.
It's a far more interesting game to play than the game of, am I perfect yet? Am I perfect yet? Am I perfect yet? Does anybody see how messed up I am?
Yeah. How do I hide how flawed I am, that I'm not perfect? And laying awake every night. How many nights I lay awake, replaying every conversation I had that day in my mind, thinking, oh no, they must think I'm an idiot. Oh God, I made a fool of myself. Oh no, they may have misunderstood that. It's no way to live.
It's not, and in fact, I would even argue it's not being fully alive.
Oh no, it really isn't.
It's really not. And the work is never done.
No, it's not. And I know a lot of people find that frustrating. A lot of people will say, how long did it take for you to overcome your low self-worth? And I usually have to say, well, I'm still at it. But, you know, I'm mostly through. But I find that an amazing opportunity. I love to learn new things. I love to learn new methods and integrate them. And I love to read a book. And there is another piece of the puzzle. And I'm like, oh, yes, that fits here. So our mind is very goal-oriented because if we reach the goal, we get the worth payout. But we don't need to reach goals. It's about the journey and enjoying that.
And so what I would love for you to stick around after we close the show for just a minute or two, if you can. I want to get the information to give to people about your free course. Okay. But thank you, Berni. As ever, your work it's so needed and it's so on point. And just thank you for doing what you do and for being who you are.
Oh, most welcome. Thank you for doing that show, for giving women a way to express themselves and to help themselves out of that soup on each other.
We do it together, and you and I have talked about doing some work together to bring these ideas forward, and we will. That is how women work very powerfully together, actually.
Yeah, and all that competition and the competitiveness is just about who's worth more, who's worth more, who's worth more, when we're all worth the same. So, you know, let's just accept that.
Oh, I love that. Great. Well, thank you again. And I think this is the third interview we've done together, and I see more in the future, because I know we're not going to talk about it right now, but you've come across something that is even more powerful that you're now working with, and people are going to want to know. But I think starting with where you are right now with what you're offering, that's a beautiful thing. So we'll make sure people have that.
Looking forward to it already.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.